let's get rolling. With regs, the common situations we're going to be looking at as opposed to fish. With fish, we're always looking at just about any hand they're involved in, but especially any post-flop decision they make, because they're going to be very exploitable due to the number of hands that they play. With regs, where we're going to focus the most amount of our attention with the way they play their hands is in 3-bet, both pre-flop and post-flop situations, so in 3-bet pots post-flop. We're going to look at what sort of boards they like to c-bet, how do they respond to 3-bets, and how do they generally behave. The other thing where we're going to pay a lot of attention to regs is how they play the c-bet floating double barrel game. And so initially we're going to be looking at some 3-bet decisions by some regs, and just how we can, just by looking at a few hands that they play, learn a lot about them. And if you are playing regularly at any level, I'd say above 50, you are going to see the regs again and again, and you're going to be able to learn a lot about them if you just look for it. So in these next few hands, we're going to be watching PDI loop. And we're just going to be watching some of the decisions that he makes in 3-bet pots and what we can learn from him. So here we see he makes a rather large 3-bet. If we want, we can note down the size if we think it's interesting. This is probably a pot size bet, so it's not that interesting. And then his 3-bet percentage of 5, so he's probably not going to be 3-bet bluffing that much. I'd say he's probably got a pretty snug range, and his 3-bets are probably most likely going to be strong Broadway cards as well. A pretty dry board here. We've either got a pocket pair or we haven't, and he checks. And when anyone checks in a 3-bet pot, it's really interesting to note the sort of hands they have, because they're normally going to be quite exploitable. We can see here that his 3-bet percentage his c-bet percentage in 3-bet pots is 60%, so he does like to 3-bet quite often. So it'll be really interesting to see what sort of hand he gets to show down here. It's a blank, check. And if I was Fubar here, I'm pretty confident that PDI loop doesn't have a pocket pair here, because he'd have to bet to protect his pocket pair at this point. So I think Fubar should be betting here and definitely firing almost any river, possibly not a diamond. It just depends. Some players will check them through. But I think a player with an aggression factor of 4, I think it's really hard for him to have too many diamond draws, so I'm probably going to bet 2 streets. And Fubar bet 6 and gets called. And we see PDI loop has ace queen. So the note we're going to take here, and we'll just change this, is and this is going to be interesting. I talked a lot in the last video about stepping stone notes, and this is one of those. As by itself, it's probably not particularly useful, but if we can see a similar situation, we may start to learn a lot about this player's 3-betting tendencies.